I'm in Chatsworth. I'm Tarek Patel.
Why is he in Chatsworth? I'm Randy Rosenblum. I'm in Santa Fe Springs, and this is SoCal Prep Report. Yeah, our studios are in SoCal Prep Report right here at LA 36. But Tarek's in Chatsworth. He's going to come up with some excuse today why he shouldn't be here. I cannot understand it. Tarek, explain it. This is 2 weeks in a row you've been playing hooky.
I'm just a lazy guy. Back to you, Randy.
That's it? Yeah,
No,
Bree
I'm
had
kidding.
the baby last night. So
I like this shot.
congratulations.
I like that shot with the empty seat. I don't know if that was on purpose. That was good. Yeah, just had our baby boy on last night. What's today? Today's Thursday. So yeah, Wednesday night. He came around 9:37. And baby Alden is here, 9 pounds, 23 inches long. And man, healthy looking little guy. So, and maybe just as important, a healthy wife and mama bear. So, man, super blessed, super grateful. All is well. Everyone's healthy. And the family just got a little bigger.
Power forward, offensive lineman. Where does Alden fit in, and who's recruiting him?
Yeah, that's actually funny. I was actually, I'm not kidding. I've already been texting with David Rabibo, the Harvard Westlake boys basketball coach. I actually told him, I said, hey, man, in like 15 years, if you're still at Harvard Westlake, I'd love for him to play for you. Or if you're at some ACC school, maybe he'll play for you in 18 years when he's going to college. And we started laughing. But, I'm thinking more like wing type, kind of a 3-and-D cerebral player, probably about 6'4", 6'5", kind of shooting guard, wing player. That's where we're looking at basketball wise. But he could play a couple other sports. We'll see.
That's a little over the top. Okay. Worry about today, not 15 years down the road. But congratulations to Tarek and Bree, baby number 2. All right, a big baby was Santa Margarita. They were born and they have developed. A big win against Mater Dei in prep football, winning at 7-6. Dash Fafita on defense with 10 tackles. This Santa Margaret team, under the guidance of Carson Palmer in his first year, the former NFL quarterback, playing inspired football. Tarek, this surprised a lot of people, but it didn't surprise Tarek Fatal. You had this one last week on this show. You picked the Eagles.
Randy, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll just kind of repeat what I said. To me, the biggest point where I knew something was, and I'm not going to say wrong. See, people think that I'm hating on Mater Dei or like the sky is falling. No. Mater Dei is still a very, very, very good football team, a national power still. They're just not the juggernaut they once were. And when I saw them only up like 7-3, or it might have been like 8-7 or something against Kahuku at halftime at home in what I believe is not 0-1, but was week 2, I thought, wait a minute, something's not right here. And so I knew a loss was coming down the pike. Now, I didn't think they'd lose to Corona Centennial, but when I saw how good Santa Margarita's defense was, I was of the opinion this is going to be the game. And so I called my shot, and it happened to turn out. Now, I wouldn't have thought that Santa Margarita was able to hold Mater Dei to just 6 points. That is mind-blowing, impressive.
The return of Trent Mosley, the all-around great player, was huge. He scored the 1 touchdown for Santa Margarita. He'd been out. He wasn't healthy. He was in a walking boot most of the season. Obviously, Mosley's back. The Eagles have a nice upside offensively going down the road with Mosley back.
They do. And I was... Listen, on the Fatel Factor, which is live Monday nights via YouTube at 8 o'clock, we had Carson Palmer on to talk about the game. And, I'll say, he was not shy about saying, he wasn't hammering his offense, but when you're talking about a quarterback that threw for 46,000 yards in the NFL, Randy, he's a little frustrated with his offense scoring, more like a lack thereof. They don't even score sometimes. So, but that defense, boy, that keeps them in game. So if the offense can catch up to that defense just a little bit, and I'm saying an extra touchdown or even 10 points per game, that's it. They can absolutely win Division I. They're that good.
Another good team is Murrieta Valley. They get by Chaparral. This was a highly entertaining contest. Nearly 100 points scored, 56-42, the final for Murrieta Valley. I know going into this one, Tarek, you thought this would be the best game of the week, and maybe it was. Certainly in the CIF Southern section. We had a game in the city we're going to talk about in a little bit. But this one on the CIF Southern section side was a beauty.
Yeah, the player to watch for Marietta Valley is Jeremiah Watson. They had a running back last year named Dorian Hose. And if you remember, Bear Bachmeyer, who's now the starting quarterback at BYU as a freshman, went down, right? He was hurt. So in comes Dorian Hose and basically put the team on his back and led them to a Division II final. Jeremiah Watson steps in, and he is maybe the best running back in regard to impacting winning in the Southern section. He's run for, I think, more than 600 yards in the last 3 games, 200 plus yards each game. So that's a name to keep an eye on. He's breakout player of the year type player.
Yeah, Watson's having a great year. You mentioned Bear Bachmeyer. He was the hero for BYU the other night in a double overtime win against Arizona. I went to bed. I was watching the game. I thought BYU was out of the game, and Bear pulled it out. So he's still doing great things now at the collegiate level. Next game, Pacifica of Oxnard. The Tritons continue to win football games. They are 7-0, but this was a tight one, Tarek. This one went down to the wire, and it's a good victory for them against a solid St. Bonaventure team.
Yeah, I think early on, the questions for Pacifica were, okay, they're playing lesser competition, and they're running up the score. Well, what's going to happen when they play better teams and better battle-tested teams? And we saw them beat Oaks Christian narrowly, right? And then we're seeing them beat St. Bonaventure by a small margin. Bishop Diego up in Santa Barbara, which is also in the Marmani League, barely lost to Oaks Christian this past week. So that Marmani League is quite interesting. I don't know, by the small margins Pacifica is winning, I wouldn't be surprised if they tripped up and maybe lost a game, but I think they're likely to still win the Marmani League because all the other teams will somewhat cannibalize themselves.
Yeah, they won the game on a late field goal by David Carranza from 33 yards. And again, the Tritons continue to play flawless football, 7-0. Next game we want to talk about, Damien and Etiwanda. We know these teams really get going and battle in basketball, but the football rivalry is pretty good too. And Damien bounces back. They had a loss a week ago against Rancho Cucamonga. They come back 49-31 in this one. Satisfying victory for the Spartans.
Yeah, good bounce back victory for Damien, as after losing to Rancho Cucamonga, as you alluded to. So, yeah, I think there's always something to achieve during a football season, right? So Damien was unbeaten going into that Rancho game and then lost, right, by a small margin. So you're thinking, okay, well, our team's never lost this season, so how are they going to respond? Well, they beat a quality Etiwanda team. Etiwanda, not a juggernaut in football, but certainly athletes, well coached. So you got to come with your best on a Friday night, and it looks like the Spartans did that.
Koa Malaulu. He's the quarterback at St. John Bosco. Braves are putting up huge numbers. They're dominating everyone. They're number one in the country. Koa's coming off a 4-touchdown performance against Olu. You can see they blasted them 48-0. Bosco is not only rolling, Tarek, they're annihilating teams.
Yeah, this is the mark of a national power and probably a national champion if things keep going the way they do. I don't know if you remember, again, I'm having a good year when it comes to seeing down the road, right? I've called some shots that have worked out. I've missed on a couple, but on the big ones, like Mater Dei losing, called that. And what I did, I don't know if you remember, early in the year, Mater Dei was, I think, still unbeaten, like 2-0, 3-0. But the way they were playing, I didn't like it. So before they lost to Centennial, I don't really remember, I dropped them from 1 to 2, and I gave Bosco the nod. And next thing you know, Mater Dei lost. So I've been seeing St. John Bosco play better ball this year. And not that no one's talking about them, but no one's talking about them at the height at which Mater Dei used to be. And, I think that's kind of driving them a little bit. Despite blowing people out and being unbeaten, everyone seems to think St. John Bosco is still mortal and beatable. Well, they haven't shown signs of that. So it'll be an interesting latter part of this regular season and certainly in the postseason.
Well, another team that's been unbeatable, just dominating, wiping out everybody is Sierra Canyon. And they did that to Chaminade, blew them out easily. a handsome victory. What, they beat them 45-14. Sierra
Correct.
Canyon has really not been challenged this year.
Yeah, no, they haven't, and it's not like they've been playing slouches. Obviously, the Mission League's a tad down, but hey, they beat Jay Sarah. Okay, Jay Sarah's not great. They thumped Olu. Okay, Olu's still a good football team. They're just not a top tier Trinity League team. But when have they been? It's always, Bosco, Mater Dei, and then that third spot's always up and down, and usually it is Olu. So they've had some games where they thought they'd be challenged more, and they haven't been. So you have to ask yourself, was that more about Sierra Canyon or the opponent? I don't know. It remains to be seen. I tell you what, that Sierra Canyon team is no joke, and that's a little bit to what I was alluding to with the St. John Bosco story. Everyone seems to want to talk about more about Sierra Canyon than Bosco for some reason. I would like to think that Jason Negro, the coach at St. John Bosco, likes it just the way it is, somewhat fly under the radar despite being number one in the country. No one's talking about us. Everyone's talking about the new flashy toy that is Sierra Canyon's defense. Perfect.
Well, I think that's normal. Everyone gets bored with the teams that win championships. They want to see somebody else at least challenge them, and Sierra Canyon is the new challenger, so we'll see how that develops going forward. A lot of people do believe that Sierra Canyon can get by Mater Dei, can get by St. John Bosco, and win the D1 title. We shall see. This was a game that kind of surprised me. It's not a giant upset. Bishop Amat beating Notre Dame, beat him by about a touchdown. But Amat was able to move the ball on the ground and control this game against this Notre Dame team of Sherman Oaks. Did this game surprise you, Tarek?
I would say it did, man. I would say a good stunner. I know, you tried to give it not that you downplayed it, but you said, a little bit of a shocker. I would say big shocker, stunner, because more so because of what Amat did the week before. They lost 35-0 to Chaminade. So you're thinking, here comes Notre Dame, who played Servite within a touchdown. I mean, good football team. And Bishop Amat is really a one-trick pony. They have a running back named Ryan Salcedo. I know we'll talk about him more in a moment. But it's like, Amat really can't pass the ball. They don't have athletes on the outside. So if you're Notre Dame, it's like, yeah, man, 8 in the box. Stop the run. Notre Dame couldn't do it. That was surprising to me. So good for Corey Minor and Bishop Amat for getting his team to respond. And that certainly throws a wrench into the rest of the Mission League after Sierra Canyon.
I know at the end of the year you pick top players and breakout players. Coach of the year could be Corey Minor. Remember, that team was 2-8 last year. He takes over. He's turned them around, and he's getting some pretty productive wins like the one against Notre Dame. All right, let's look at Tarek's CIF Southern Section Top 10. No surprise, St. John Bosco still ranked number 1, Sierra Canyon number 2. Tarek, seems to be in plain sight who the best teams are.
Yeah, again, the top 2 are unbeaten there. Lusinger, I felt deserved that number 10 ranking after a nice win over Palos Verdes. They're running the ball, they're passing the ball, they're playing good defense, all around games and results. Not a whole lot of movement other than Santa Margarita leapfrogging Mater Dei after their victory over the Monarchs for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think what's actually been interesting, if I were to do like a top 15, the teams that are constantly moving are like 11 to 15. It's that top ilk of Division II playoff teams.
Okay. The next thing
they lost. Go ahead.
I want to talk about this next thing because you put together, you were writing for one of your jobs, and I can't keep track of all your positions, but you had D1 playoff predictions. St. John Bosco, Sierra Canyon, Corona Centennial, Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo, Servite, and Orange Lutheran. No Los Alamitos, though, in that top 8. So why the 8 that you picked?
Yeah, I just think over time what's going to happen, it's not an indictment on Los Alamitos. I don't see them beating Mission Viejo. So they're going to drop a little bit. Los Alamitos is up there right now because they're beating teams and they're unbeaten. They're probably going to lose to Mission Viejo. Shoot, they could this week, so that could happen. And then the other one is Murrieta Valley. Murrieta Valley, I don't think will be in Division I. Why? They're going to eventually probably lose to Corona Centennial. So you're going to get those teams that are playing themselves really high. They're going to suffer some losses here. Division I, and they'll drop down. So that's why I went with those 8 teams.
And it'll probably make those teams more viable in the lower division, so they don't have to worry
No
about
question.
playing the big boys.
They're going to want to be there.
I agree with you. All right, let's turn our attention to the LA City section. We'll turn our attention in that direction. Palisades, in my mind, this was the greatest game, regular season game, maybe ever played in the LA City section. Palisades rallies, they had numerous lead changes in this game, 56-54. This was supposed to be our LA 36 game of the week, but the LAUSD, and we don't know why, has kind of put an embargo, a stop on us doing city games for the time being. They haven't really given us a great answer. You can ask the LAUSD. We don't know why, so we're going to have a Southern section game for you this week. But forget that. It would have been great to have this game on television because it would have been a great exposure for a great event. But all in all, Palisades rallies. DeMar DeZern has 3 touchdowns, 1 a pick six. What a performance by Pally and Venice. Both of them, just a tremendous show.
Yeah, I think it was a shame that this game wasn't on TV and those kids didn't get that experience. I think, especially given what Palisades and that community has gone through, for them to get a little pub, a little screen time would have been really good for everybody involved, including LAUSD. So that's a story for another day. However, I do think, I know it's very positive that they won and it's a great game. I do think big picture, though, this is an example. Palisades needs to really shore things up if they want to be an open division championship contender in the city section. They're going to be in the open. I don't know if they'll be able to, I don't know if they'll have the beef in the defense to stop the Carson and the Birminghams of the world. So they need to shore that up before the postseason.
A couple quick scores in the LA City section we want to talk about. University knocks off Hamilton, although Thomas Bro throws for 310 yards and 4 touchdowns in the loss. Hamilton missed 2 two-point conversions. That's why they lost the game. Uni's only loss this year is to Pally. This University team is having a good year. They'll be in the playoffs somewhere. And congratulations to Kennedy. They clobbered Silmar. But the story here is Diego Montes, the quarterback, running and throwing touchdowns throughout his career. Tarek, his total now has reached 100. So 100 career touchdowns for Kennedy of Granada Hills, Diego Torres. What a great accomplishment.
Yeah, Diego Montes is a tremendous player. He does it through the air. He does it with his feet. He's a good leader. He's an all-city guy. My guess is if Kennedy Athletics has any type of Hall of Fame, he'll be in it. And maybe if they win a city title, maybe he has a crack at being in the city section Hall of Fame. I know that sounds grandiose now, but it's got to be a short list, 100 touchdowns in your football career, right, Randy? I mean, you've seen a lot of football in your day. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, Milton Knox is the only one that comes to mind at Birmingham.
There you go.
I think he had 104 rushing touchdowns. There's probably someone else, but other than Knox, you're right. It's a rare individual who gets their rarefied air for Montez. All right, let's look at the Max Preps top 10 in the LA City section. They have Carson ranked number 1. Birmingham and San Pedro are next in line. Pally, who needs to shore up that defense, at 4. Kennedy, Montez and Company at 5. Then Eagle Rock, King Drew, Venice, Franklin, and Garfield.
Yeah, I think this is a better interpretation of the top 10 now that Max Preps is, again, as more data comes in for their computers and so on and so forth, you get to see, I think, a little more accurate as the postseason rolls around, which is all that matters, frankly. As long as everything's the way it's supposed to be by the time week 10 concludes, that's all that really matters. Looking at rankings from week 0 through week 10 is really just for fun. It doesn't mean anything until the playoffs come, because now both sections seed according to what the computer rankings say. And that's a better representation of what's going on. I would give University, if there's anyone that should probably crack into that top 10, maybe University should be in there now after beating Hamilton. That's a quality win and a little bit of a stunner. So I got to look deeper into that program. They deserve probably a little more coverage.
All right, some top performances last week in the LA City section and the Southern section. Jeremiah Watson, you mentioned him from Murrieta Valley. He had another huge rushing game, well over 200 yards. Ryan Salcedo of Bishop Amat just went nuts in that victory over Notre Dame, 371 and 5 touchdowns. Jake Nettle of Saugus, the quarterback, 342 and a school record 7 touchdowns over West Ranch. Brady Edmonds out at Huntington Beach, a big game. Look at the accuracy, 18 of 21, 3 touchdowns, and a nice win over a very good La Habra team. Great win for HB there. Gavin Gray, quarterback of Gura, another big game, 5 touchdowns, and he ran for another one in the victory over Dos Pueblos. And Jack Thomas in that Palisades game, 460 yards, 5 touchdowns against Venice. Bennett Dome of Venice threw for 5 touchdowns on the other side. Just, like I said, a classic game. Anything there that strikes your fancy, Tarek?
No, I just think it's fun to see quarterbacks air it out. Obviously, Salcedo with the 371. I think it came back 351 officially, but the 5 touchdowns. I mean, he single-handedly, beat Notre Dame by himself, which is just remarkable. I mean, they, 36-29, 5 touchdowns. If my math serves me correctly, he scored every touchdown, and maybe they got a 2-point conversion in there. So, remarkable performance for him, and something that'll probably get him an all-CIF honor, regardless of how Bishop Amat finishes the year.
You're very good in arithmetic. Your numbers are correct. All right,
okay.
That time in the show for point, counterpoint. I love the graphic. Well, these teams play a lot of football games in both the city and the southern section. Tark, is the regular season too long? Are we playing too many games?
I'm of the thought that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I'm not mistaken, the CIF Southern section, people don't know this because seasons feel longer than most. Every regular season in the Southern section for every playoff, so like basketball, baseball, softball, I believe they're all 10-week seasons, maybe a total of 11 weeks, something like that. The time frame for each sport and each season is the same throughout the year. So this is the allotted time for the sport, and I think it's great. Then you get into football, 1 game a week, just like the college and the pros. I see no problem with the calendar.
I disagree. I think the season's way too long. When I played, it was 8 regular season games. I don't think it should be more than that. Now they're playing 11, 12 games in the regular season. Everyone's going to the playoffs anyway, so you're going to get additional games. I think it'll slow down the injury bug. I think it's too physical. Too many guys are getting hurt because the season's way too long. These kids are exhausted. And it also will minimize the impact of transfers because if they transfer, they're going to miss a larger part of their season. I don't like it. I think the season's too long. 8 is enough. I've heard that term before. Then everyone can go to the playoffs. That's my thought on the schedule. All right, when we look at next week's games, one sticks out mightily. St. John Bosco and Santa Margarita. Can the Eagles beat the Monarchs of Mater Dei, then the Braves of Bosco in back-to-back weeks, Tarek?
No.
All right, let's move ahead to our next game.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. That is a big bite to chew right there, man. And I just don't see the Eagles able to knock anybody, that pull that off. They need to score points, and they're having a hard time doing that. So I will say their defense should hold up a bit. I'm going to go like 24-7, 24-10 Bosco.
45-7 Bosco.
Whoa, Rosenblum. Okay.
Hey, I gotta take a stand. How about Notre Dame? Can they bounce back from the disappointment, that loss to Bishop Amat against Sierra Canyon? Can they make that competitive?
Yeah, and I think that's the question, and that's the realistic. The Notre Dame faithful aren't going to like this, but that's not a game. Look, of course, you want to go into every game thinking you want to win, but if I'm the coaching staff and I'm the fans, I'm thinking I want to see a good response from last week's letdown. And if they can keep it competitive, show that they can play with a big, bad Sierra Canyon, that should tell them that they're ready for the playoffs and ready to maybe win every Mission League game from this week on. Because if you can compete with Sierra Canyon, you can beat anybody.
Corona Centennial plays a team from Murrieta every week, it seems like. This time it's Murrieta Valley. Both teams are 6-1. I got to like the Huskies here. They're just playing great football. Right now, they're one of the best teams.
This Big West League, when you talk about like Norco, Chaparral, Murrieta Valley, Vista Murrieta, and Corona Centennial, and then you've got Roosevelt in there, which is generally the bottom of the league. But point is all those teams can score points. The Huskies seem to be the only program that can play defense. It's like, hello. So, yeah, they're going to have the edge, and they're likely going to win. I anticipate the game being high scoring still, but, the Huskies are going to have more points at the end of the night, and they're going to win the game.
I knew you knew this at the beginning of the year, but coming into this week, you knew that Servite would have a better record than Mater Dei when they played, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure I called that one. The only reason why Mater Dei only has 6 games to their name is obviously they had Bishop Montgomery on their schedule, and we all know what happened at Bishop Montgomery. They had to forfeit. So they got one, they're only playing a 9-game slate this year. That being said, no, I wouldn't have guessed that when these two teams faced off, that one team, Mater Dei, would have a worse record or have just as many losses. And I believe this is a Saturday game. So it'll be interesting to see things unfold on the Friday night, and then this game have, the center of attention on Saturday. And frankly, there is an element of this where Mater Dei, man, if Servite comes out fast and punches them in the mouth and goes up maybe a score or two in that first quarter, will Mater Dei begin to fold? I don't know.
They're not going to fold. Well, how about the game at SoFi Stadium? Los Alamitos and Edison. This should be a very entertaining game.
This Alpha League, which is Los Alamitos, Edison, San Clemente, and Mission Viejo, is one of the best leagues in California. It's just 4 teams. These guys are competing for a playoff spot. Only 2 of the 4 get an automatic berth. Sometimes they can, depending on where you fall, you can get an at-large as the 3 and the 4. It's happened before. But point is these games are always generally tight. The only team that happens to always be just a cut above is Mission Viejo. This Los Alamitos team, despite being 7-0, is vulnerable. Edison's a good football team too, but I will give the edge to Coach Fenton and the Griffins.
La Habra and Crean Lutheran, that has a very, very big game feel to it. I like La Habra to bounce back there, even though Crean Lutheran right now is undefeated. In the city, Garfield and Southgate for the Eastern League Championship. Garfield has ruled the roost there for a long time, but Southgate has a tremendous quarterback in Michael Gonzalez. That'll be an entertaining game. And then in the Northern League, you got to love this one. Franklin hosting Eagle Rock and the great quarterback Liam Paston. Any thoughts on those games, Tarek?
Yeah, I'll just, Liam Passon and Eagle Rock, to me, that's a fun story. They're constantly scoring points. They themselves would be in the Big West League out with Centennial and Marietta Valley and those guys. They know how to score, but the defense needs to get shored up. And that's the big question for a lot of these teams. The ones that are vying for playoff position, something's got to get better, whether it be your offense, like Santa Margarita, or your defense, like an Eagle Rock or Marietta Valley.
Flag football will have their seedings this week. We'll know what the playoff brackets are. J. Sarah is the number 1 team in the Southern Section, 24-0. They've beaten Olu twice, who was really the second best team in the country earlier in the year. Maybe they still are because J. Sarah is number 1. Kate Meyer, the quarterback, nearly 50 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, just a great quarterback. Of course, McKenna Cook of Orange Lutheran has thrown 92 touchdowns. And also they'll have the volleyball seedings come out this weekend as well. Sierra Canyon has been dominant, the number 2 team in the country. I know you did some stories on Stephanie Wigfall. That Trailblazer team, they've won 110 out of the last 111 in the Mission League. They've been unstoppable, and they will be the top seed.
They will. And just to add a little flavor on that story, they have the daughter of Willie McGinnis and, Super Bowl linebacker, so on and so forth. And then Jared Jeffries, I don't remember Jared Jeffries, I believe played at Stanford, was a top 10 pick in the NBA. His daughter, I believe Eva Jeffries, is on that team. So there's a little bit of celebrity splash on that team as well.
Yeah, Sierra Canyon, great in everything. Their football team prospering. Their basketball team will probably be the top basketball team in SoCal this season. And obviously their girls volleyball team will be the favorite, and the pairings come out this weekend. Tark, enjoy the newborn. Take care of Bree. Take care of the babies. And try to find an excuse for next week while you'll be in your dungeon again in Chatsworth.
Yeah, looking forward to being in studio next week. Thanks for the support, guys. Thanks for letting me slum it from the house. And we're excited over here. The Fattel household is very happy, very blessed that everyone's healthy. And yeah, we got a new baby boy. I will have pictures and so on and so forth for next episode. Thank you, Randy.
You got it, Tark. I guess you're not going to go to a game this week. Okay, so here comes the piece of paper. Gio. Nice. Gio's got as good as arm as Tark. So that's going to wrap up our show. Hope you enjoyed SoCal Prep Report. We'll be back next week, same time, same station. For Tark, Gio, and Larry, I'm Randy. See you next time. Have a good one, everybody. So long from Santa Fe Springs. Where are you? You're not here. Why are you not here? I'm talking to a chair now. You're not even in studio. It's a good-looking chair, but I'd rather...